Yes, there used to be a ballpark right here. Welcome back, Harmony and Hardball.
Hey,
Episode 2. We're still here. 2. Yes.
To our dozens and dozens of fans.
Tens and tens.
Tens and tens.
Tens of subscribers.
Yes. Well, hey, we did hear some good positive feedback from you all out there in the world of YouTube and Spotify and Amazon and Apple podcasts. So we decided to keep it going, at least for one more. So we are back, and we're going to just tell you a couple things real quick. How to get a hold of us is Harmony Hardball.
Harmony and Hardball at gmail.com. Harmony and Hardball at gmail.com.
Okay, so that's how you can get a hold of us. If you have ideas on guests that you want us to bring on here, you can do that. How to watch this? Well, you're watching it now, so you're probably on either YouTube, but we're also now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, all those things. And I do want to say that it was good to see that Anthony Rizzo and David Ross were inspired by Harmony and Hardball and started their own podcast this week.
Right?
Did you guys see that?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
So I hope they shout us out. So, but anyway, we're gonna move right into this week's guest.
Boy.
So we gave a little teaser on Facebook, but here we go. He likes barbershop. He likes baseball. He likes singing bass. He likes bacon.
He likes salads.
He likes Battlestar Galactica.
Ooh.
He likes Brett. I think he likes Brett. We're going to find out. So
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't like Brett. We're going to find out. Here we go. We're admitting him into the room. Who's going to show up? Drum roll.
Nobody.
Just a name.
Who's there?
Dr. Dan.
Dr. Dan Wessler. Can you hear us?
I don't see him.
I'm right here.
Oh, there he is. He's got to talk.
This isn't the men's room. Nailed it.
It kind of is.
He nailed it.
Okay,
Rival.
fair enough.
Awesome.
Do I sound better tonight, Dan?
No. Thanks for asking, though.
Dan had some strong critiques for the first episode of the podcast.
Fair.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so
Reasonable.
we have a couple people with new mics. We have hopefully some new internet. So I think we're a little more visible tonight, which is great.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yeah. So this is Dan. This is Dan Wessler. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself to our tens and tens of subscribers, as we've been mentioning? We'd like you to introduce yourself. So here's what you need to introduce yourself with. What are your credentials as a barbershopper, and what are your credentials as a fan of sport?
Yeah. As tens of you. There are dozens of us. Dozens. As a barbershopper, I sing with Tim in After Hours, the 2018 International Champion Quartet. I also direct the Westminster Chorus. We just led them to a 2024 Chorus Championship in Cleveland a couple of years ago. That was very, very fun. And I'm also an active barbershop arranger. I do a lot of arranging barbershop groups all over the world. And I'm also a musicality judge at the moment for the Barbershop Harmony Society as well. So barbershop is definitely a big side gig for myself. And I have Tim to thank for getting me into that. He's the one who, when we were in college, we were bumming around together. He's like, hear this thing about barbershop? And he introduced me, and I was like, I like that. And I never turned around. So I owe a lot to Tim for my barbershop life. So much.
Do you have a real job?
I do.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's your real job?
No, I didn't know that was what this was about. I thought it was just barbershop and baseball, but we can talk about that. Yeah, that's fine.
Go for it.
I do.
What do you got?
I'm an adjunct professor. I teach at Concordia University, Irvine. I teach a couple of choirs, and I teach choral methods, and I also teach some other classes at another Orange County, North Orange County Community College. So adjunct professor. That's what I do.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
but that's
fantastic.
boring. Let's talk about baseball.
Let's talk about baseball. What do you got?
Yeah, you would want to talk about baseball since you're a freaking Cardinal fan, correct?
Enemy territory. Here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, here's the thing. So I'm a baseball guy. I don't do any other sports. It's just baseball for me. But I discovered it when I was a kid. I'm a St. Louis Cardinals guy because I grew up in Peoria, Illinois. And here's the thing about Peoria is like right in between Chicago and St. Louis. So the barbershop landscape of Peoria was very much Cubs and Cardinals. There was a few White Sox fans bumming around, but most Cubs and Cardinals for the most part. And so I was into baseball as a kid. I'm like, well, I gotta like one of these teams. And I had a couple of my uncle and my grandpa were into the Cardinals, so I think I gravitated that way. Also, honestly, the more I think about it, I really liked the color red, and I think that was one of the reasons that I decided to be a Cardinals guy. So there's that. So I was into that. The one interesting thing is that when I got to high school, I discovered music and kind of was like, oh, this is what I do. So I kind of stopped doing baseball for about 20 years. So between 2000 and 2021, I wasn't really watching baseball or anything. But then in 2021, I was in Colorado getting my DMA, and Molly and I were like, let's go to a baseball game. Let's go see the Rockies. And we went to that game, and I was like, oh, I remember loving baseball.
Nice.
I wonder what the Cardinals are up to. And then I just kind of jumped right back on the wagon. So I'm a big Cardinals man with a 20-year deficit in there, which is a bummer because those were really good 20 years for the Cardinals. But that's my identity as a sports guy.
That's interesting. I actually have a weird color story about a football team. So when I was like early junior high, I was a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan because they had the coolest looking jerseys. They still
Those
kind of
orange
do.
ones?
No. It was after they got rid of the old orange ones, but they went to those cool looking red jerseys. I don't know. I was like, Mike, I'll stop running downhill at people with that jersey. It was just something but then it was like doing that for about 2 years. I realized that they're never on TV in Illinois. So
Yeah, when I was getting into basketball, I was a Raptors fan right away because of the sick like dinosaur jerseys. Like Vince Carter,
yeah, man.
T-Mac, that duo with the jerseys. I was like, man, that's really cool. So I was going to basketball. I was like a Raptors fan. Of course, Bulls fan first, but Raptors like this looked so sweet, so I was into them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Cool. So, all right. So let's go from here, Dan. So, what is your favorite or top in-stadium moment you've ever had? We did this last week on ours, but what's your favorite memory of being in the stadium live for a sporting event?
Oh, I know exactly what you did last week. I listened to this podcast.
Oh,
I'm an avid
Oh, one of
listener.
one of our 24 listeners.
I'm actually
Wow.
I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller for this podcast. So what I'll do for this, I'll use kind of I'll broaden this a little bit. So basically my dad would take myself and my brother down to St. Louis for a couple of games every summer from Peoria. He'd take us down. We'd go to St. Louis, see a night game, and then we'd stay at the Marriott across the street from Busch Stadium, and then go to a day game the next day and go home. So it was always a fun kind of 2-game weekend we would go on every summer. And I remember specifically the summer of 1998 because that was the big Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa home run race. And I think we went to 4 games that year because it was such a big deal. He was like, let's take another trip. And so we saw 4 games that year. And so I don't have a single game moment, but I'm going to say those 4 games, I think I saw 3 or 4 of the 70 McGwire home runs in those games. And I just remember being in the stadium and just whenever he came up to bat, everyone was completely dialed in. There was so much, everyone watching every single pitch. Is this going to be number 38 or whatever? If it was today, everyone would have their phones up. It was that kind of thing. It was just everyone was totally dialed in. I just remember the energy in the stadium whenever he was up to bat that summer. So that's probably would qualify as my my favorite in stadium story.
Have you guys looked ahead at the Cardinals' schedule for the July 4th weekend?
Yeah, they're out of town. They're actually in Chicago, I think.
They are.
Are you
Yeah, I was
serious?
hoping they'd
Oh man.
against the Cubs.
Yeah, the weekend
Dan,
after International.
We're gonna have to broadcast. We're gonna have to do a show.
Ooh, a live show from
Sure.
St. Louis.
Outside of Busch Stadium.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh man, Dan, I remember that summer. That was incredible. Because obviously I was following Sosa just every pitch. It was unbelievable. That was certainly a formative, season, and that whole run. The Cubs had a good run just as a franchise during that time with Kerry Wood and then Mark Pryor as they went on from there. That was a great
Why
kind of
did they
time
ever ban
period.
steroids? It was so much fun when they were on steroids. You know?
That's what's so conflicting about it is like it was so much fun. I mean, it brought baseball back from because they had the strike a few years before that, and it brought it back, man. All the interest was at a high, but
There's a Daniel Tosh joke. Daniel Tosh jokes that we as fans deserve the best athletes science can create. I agree, Brett. I agree.
Yep.
That is
right.
true. That's awesome. Dan, sorry, you do have to share. Dan has shared a story with me that it maybe wasn't your favorite in-stadium moment because it wasn't in the stadium. But I need you have to share one of these moments with your dad.
It's great. And I think Brett, I told you this, but I don't know Terry and Danny. I don't know if you know this one. So my dad, he took us to these games back to back, and we'd stay at the Marriott across the street from Busch Stadium. That's an important detail. Across the street from Busch Stadium, and so we were at this night game, and the Cardinals were just eating it. They were down like 7 or 8 runs, and it was the 7th inning, and you know how it is in the stadium when it's like everyone's just kind of down. There's not much. You see people kind of filing out, and we were kind of looking at each other, and my dad's like, if we leave now, I can catch the rerun of Seinfeld at 10 p.m. on TV. Which is funny now because you want to watch Seinfeld, just fire up Netflix. But back then, it's like you got to watch it when it's on, and so he really liked Seinfeld. It's a good show. I don't blame him. So I was like, okay, all right. So we go back over, and of course, what happens? The Cardinals come back and win. And we're right across the street. We can hear the crowd roaring outside our window. We can see the fireworks. It was, he felt terrible, but it was the most hilarious thing in hindsight. And hey, he got to watch a rerun of Seinfeld,
What lesson did you learn, Dan? What lesson did you learn from that? Never. You heard, if you did listen last week, never give up.
Now, in fairness, Brett, this sounds a lot like when we were in Cleveland.
Yeah.
If you remember, the Cleveland was down by like 6 runs in the 9th inning, and we decided we were staying right across the street from the stadium. So we went back to the stadium, and we're sitting there having a drink or something. And all of a sudden, we hear all these fireworks. We're like, oh, the game must be over. Yeah, Cleveland came back and won in the bottom of the 9th.
Did the Germans give up when we bombed Pearl Harbor? No.
It ain't over now.
And that's it for our podcast, everybody. Have a great.
Oh man.
Anyhow.
So Dan, who are your favorite Cardinals?
Oh, in history, my
history.
My top
you have a top 3.
Sure.
Give a top 3.
Yeah, my top 3. So I think it's fairly personal. It's not based on stats as much as just kind of my experience. If I was thinking my top 3 earlier today, I think number 3 I'm going to go Yadier Molina. I just really loved watching Yadi play. He spent his entire career in St. Louis between most of the years I wasn't watching, but I caught the tail end because he retired.
Right.
I think 2022 was his last season. Yeah, it was just like it was so much fun to watch him just absolutely command the base runners. You could not beat his throw to second base. Very few guys tried to steal second base because they knew it wasn't going to happen. And the best thing was watching him pick off leadoff guys. Like if there's a guy on third base, kind of being a little bit lazy on the bag, taking a couple steps back. He's like, I don't think so. Just fires it over. And
he was
like,
awesome.
You were never safe on the bases with Yadi. I think for number 2, I'm going to go with this is kind of the correct answer for any Cardinal fan in terms of the historic Cardinals, and that's Stan Musial. Stan the Man Musial is considered the best Cardinal in the history of the organization. Spent his entire career in St. Louis. He was an outfielder for the most part. He just was an offensive monster, batted like lifetime average of 330, something like that. Just a whole bunch of home runs. And I just remember as a kid, I read books about Stan Musial. I heard.
Oh, you didn't see him play?
No, I didn't. No,
Okay.
No, only
Wasn't
through anecdotes from my grandfather of the old days. But my grandfather would talk about the days of Stan Musial, and at one point he bought me my grandfather bought me a kind of a portrait of Stan Musial that I had in my bedroom for a while. I don't know where it is now. I think we gave it away. Bummer. Well, but my number 1 for sure, my favorite Cardinal of all time, definitely Ozzie Smith, the Wizard, arguably one of the best, if not the best, shortstop ever to play the game. He was just a defensive maniac. It was really fun to watch him. My favorite thing about Ozzy was he had a thing where he'd run out on the field for the first inning. He always did a backflip. He always did his signature backflip going out, and the crowd would go nuts and just fielding ground balls, throwing from his knees to first base, just crazy. And also, what's cool about him, he's stayed with the organization ever since. He retired in 1996, but he's still with Bush. He runs events, he does educational things. He's definitely a Cardinal for life kind of guy. So he's my number one. I think when I was 10 years old, I wanted to be Ozzie Smith for Halloween. So we did fashion a kind of Cardinals jersey with Smith on the back, and so I did get to be Ozzie Smith for Halloween.
Oh God! If you had pictures of that, you've got to share.
Yeah,
you being Ozzie Smith. But no, you picked some guys there that I could enjoy watching too because they played like kids. They enjoyed. They weren't in there. They were playing like kids, and that's what I enjoy about players like that. Those guys were awesome.
And honestly, those guys played with some flash, which during some of those guys from back then, it wasn't encouraged as much for the guys to play with flash. The old school way of thinking was a lot more tip your cap, whatever. And now it's like these days so many guys play with just a lot of excitement and showmanship. But
sounds like Barbershop.
Yeah.
Things are changing.
But
things are changing.
Even with that, Tim, yes, but I think more importantly, they were really classy individuals. They were really gentlemen, which I really appreciate.
Yep. They're still Cardinals.
Yeah, they were still Cardinals. In fact, that leads me to my next thing.
All right, here we go.
Do any of the hosts have your most hated Cardinals of all time? And go.
I'll start. Sadly, Daddy and Molina is not my list, sadly. Obviously, like these guys, like when I was growing up, like watching baseball, like they're obviously so talented. Like Matt Carpenter, great player. Pujols, great player. Wainwright, great player. But they're just Cub killers. I was like, oh my god! Whenever they come into bat, it's like they're gonna get like a tough hit, like blooper off the bat, some frustrating hits. Like oh my gosh, I always found a way. But this one Molina thing, I'm just like can't get past this guy. So he had like so much pine tar on his chest plate once, and
I remember
stuck
that
to it, and just like this guy. He's always going to find a way to like push the boundaries. Like I can't believe he's like. To me, it feels like cheating. But I'm just like this guy's got so much.
Do you remember when the ball stuck to his?
Yeah.
Do you remember when the ball
looking around
stuck to
him and it's on his chest? And you're not serious right now. Because then I'm just like, okay, I'm sure he's rubbing it off, throwing back to the pitcher, and then the pitcher's got sticky stuff again. I was like, this guy. But again, like that's the game within the game. Like he figure out those ways to get by it. I'm just like, that's frustrating. And my other one, sadly, is Wilson Contreras.
Oh,
that's my other one.
Yeah, he's controversial. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a rough departure from Chicago. So Cubs kind of let him go, and like I understand that there's obviously like some negativity between like if you're a player who like spent a long time in a certain city, like you want to be welcomed back. So there's a little bit of like bad energy there, but he kind of badmouthed the Cubs organization right away. Yeah. And like after supporting him for so long. Like he won the World Series with the Cubs. I'm just like that left a really bad taste in my mouth, and I was like, man, like I wish he hadn't said those things. I was like, dang it. So he is kind of on my list too. Obviously, Yachty is not on the same level as my hatred there, but Wilson, obviously a great player, but I was like, man, that was a rough departure for me. So
for sure.
So I have two. The first one doesn't even play for the Cardinals anymore, but he just makes me sick to my stomach every time I see him, and that's Miles Michaelis. Can't stand that dude. I think it's the '70s stash. He gives me
nobody looks more like a baseball player than that guy. He is the embodiment of what a baseball player looks like.
The second one, this may be controversial. Ooh. Joe Buck. Can't stand that dude.
Agreed.
I know he wasn't a player. I get that. Yeah,
but you consider him a Cardinal. You consider him a Cardinal
because his dad was Jack.
Yeah, I mean he's like the dollar. He's like the Dollar General version of his dad.
Okay.
Terrible herpes. Mine is the whole 1987 Cardinals altogether because you guys are most of you weren't born. That's when they played the Twins. Back when I was a Twins fan, in the Metrodome, they said that the people in the stadium, the fans were blowing in when the Cardinals were out, and they're blowing out when the Twins were out. I don't know if any of you remember that, but they
I do.
complained about that. And you got Jack Clark and Tony Pena and all those guys that I couldn't stand those guys. But Kirby Puckett and the boys, Kirby Puckett, and what college did he go to? Bradley University.
Bradley University.
There
it is.
Where Dan and Tim went to. But yeah, he was a great twin. But anyhow, that few of those guys, but that team in particular, I couldn't stand.
You guys got all mine except one. You got all of them. I would have said probably Pujols, Molina, but the other one I actually thought Terry was going down this direction because your description of Miles Michaelis is how I feel about Harrison Bader.
Oh,
Harrison Bader, who's not even very good at baseball, but he's just annoying. And I just look at him, and he would run around, and he would just have these little scrappy plays that would kill the Cubs. And he wasn't even very good. He was usually bad against everybody else, but he would do something against the Cubs that would just torment us. And that was my guy.
Certain guys that do that.
I know. So, well, hey, we should switch into some barbershop talk.
Oh, why not?
That's because we have
now
we
you
have
got
Dan.
that out of your system. Yeah.
Now that we got the now we got that out.
And as we speak, the Cubs lost tonight 2-0. And the freaking Cardinals and the Brewers both win tonight. So
we were going to talk about the state of the season so far, but I think we can move past that one.
159-3 will not be bad.
As of 30 minutes ago, we're going to move past it. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. So
let's move to something we all like.
So barbershop. So Dan, tell us a little bit about how Westminster's going. How are things going? You guys just had a tour. What are you guys up to?
Big old year for us, man. We did a whole tour that started with, we sang for Midwinter in Pasadena first in January, so that was something. But then right when March started, we started our tour by singing in San Jose for the ACDA, American Choral Directors Association Western Conference, which is really, really cool. For me, that's a personal career checkpoint, getting to direct a choir at a ACDA conference, so that's like a bucket list thing for me. But also, that's something that Westminster's historically done is sing at ACDA, and for two reasons: to show hey, we can do classical too, but also to show the classical choral world this is what great barbershop sounds like. It's kind of witnessing in that sense. And I wasn't sure how we were going to go over. Some of these ACDA crowds, you don't know what they're going to dig and what they're not, but they were digging it. We started with a Mendelssohn motet and then jumped into Earth, Wind, Fire. And they were digging it. So I was like, with that code switch, are they going to go for it? But they loved the whole set. It was a great highlight. But then we took right off from there. To our European tour, we sang a concert in Stockholm with 08. So sharing the stage with them was a lot of fun. Then we sang in Munich with Andrew Rembecki's chorus, Herren Besuch. And then in the Netherlands, in Den Haag with Mixed Nuts, the Netherlands chorus, then finished up at Bing. We did some performances at the Bing World Mixed Competition, which was fantastic. There had to be like 2,000 or 3,000 people there. It was almost like an international. It was just fantastic.
Wow.
And you sang in that contest.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Interesting.
Are we going to talk about that? Or...
No, I don't think so.
How was that, Dan? How was your performance? Yeah, tell us about it.
It was good. It was good, yeah. So Smoke Ring was there. If y'all know Barbershop, Smoke Ring, and their bass Gabriel. Like the day before the contest, they just lost their voice completely, and so they knew that they were going to try to use the score at Bing to qualify for international. But when this happened, they were like, well, that's not going to happen. But they knew they could qualify at some district later, and they're going to do that. So they said, let's just have a good time. They asked me, could I fill in on bass with them and just to kind of get on the stage and just have a fun time. And they were like, should we sing a couple of Polecats? And I'm like, Smoke Ring, we're not going to sing a couple of Polecats. What are you talking about? So I said, let's do a couple of rhythm charts. Give me the charts. Give me like an hour in my hotel room just to read through them, and I'll be able to perform with an iPad. And so it was really, really fun. I came out and performed these fun charts with them on an iPad. We were doing some shtick, and it was a lot of fun. It was really, really
It
cool.
looked fun.
Yeah.
It did. You looked like you had a great time with them. That's awesome that you could do that.
That's great.
Perfect.
Yeah. Awesome. So what are your moving kind of to international? What are your thoughts on kind of international? What are you looking forward to? What thoughts do you have about St. Louis coming up?
Well, the coolest thing about international is that I'm going to be in the judging pit. You guys didn't think about that, did you?
I forgot.
Yeah, this is really cool. This is only the end of my first term as a musicality judge, and I got selected to be in the pit. So I can't wait. I mean, I love being a judge. There's some people that you become a judge. It's for you. It's not for you. But I just love it. I love the judging process. I love the eval.
You are very judgy.
I
You
am
always
very
have
judgy.
been. Yep.
He's always been that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel judged right now, actually. Yeah.
It just feels great to assign a number to a human being. Something about that just really, really gets me excited.
That's awesome.
That's great, though, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. So no, it's just gonna be. And I heard y'all were talking about in the podcast last time. It's just talking about those top quartets. It's like, do we really have a front runner? It's hard to say. It's just like everyone's singing at this high A level, but it's just very different flavors. It's like apples and oranges and bananas and chocolate pudding and steak, and it's like, which one do you like best? Well, what mood are we in? It's just so who's going to really bring their identity the best. So I'm just excited to get to experience it from the best seat in the house.
Do you really quickly on that? Do you find it really difficult when there are top groups like that are such different styles? Like when you have if you back to back have two quartets that are, let's say, a Smoke Ring and a Secret Best Friends or something that might have a similar level of singing, but they're just so completely different in how they get to those numbers. Like, how do you kind of weave your way in your mind to that number?
Honestly, it's just when you go through category school, you're trained on the elements of the category, and that's what you listen for, and you put down the number that works. What you don't want to do, you don't want to get into the game of, oh, is this quartet better than that one? Oh, I wrote a 90 for this one, I should write a 91. You don't do that. Because once you do that, then you calibrate and you're second guessing things. You trust your instincts. You write a number. The best thing to do is to judge a quartet, put it aside, completely forget what you wrote, and the next one is just a clean
You're
slate.
still human, though. You're still human. Yeah. You're going to hear that's a really hard thing to do. And I think it'd be hard actually now, with all the different voices that are in barbershop now. I think it'd be, as a Joe barbershop, you guys are all music people, and you can differentiate music is music is music. But in my ear, it's such a different sound between we don't use the word mixed anymore or a female quartet, but you know what I mean? It just seems to be very difficult to understand and how you would judge that different sound. So
it is, honestly, and I do sometimes when I'm in the district contest. Sometimes you'll have an all male quartet, then a female quartet come out, and it's just kind of you'd have to think a little, because it is a very, very different sound. But in the sense that it's still, it's wildly different, but there still are differences that we judge even within all male quartets. Like a quartet of 20-year-olds sounds different from a quartet of 80-year-olds. That's a very different sound, but we judged on the same scale. So I'd compare it to that. It's just, it is wildly different, but even within a single gender, there's all these wild differences. You just learn to listen for those elements you're trained for and just kind of trust your instincts. But it's tough, especially because the gender thing is newer. We've been listening to different ages for a long time, but different genders is kind of a new thing. So, but it's the same idea, I would say.
Yeah.
Sure.
Dan, so what are your top 3 favorite quartets of all time, if you could choose?
Cool. So here we go. I'll say, and again, it's very personal. I heard all your top 3 quartets, the last one, and it's a very personal thing. Not necessarily who are the greatest ones, but it's who are my own top 3. Number 3 for me, I think, and depending on the day of the week, it could change. But number 3, I think I would go with Bluegrass Student Union because of their sound. I love their sound. It's resonant, it's buzzy, it's full of personality, and just they get bonus points just for having Rick Stab on bass. If I
knew you were going there.
If you talk to me about barbershop, you know that Rick Stab he's my man for bass. He's just resonance, depth of sound, consistency. The big thing is his consistency throughout his range. He just has one register. I'm singing, I have to switch registers. Oh, it's my middle voice. Oh, my high voice. He's just up to down. It's the same voice. I don't know how he does it. He's just the gold standard for bass singing, and I love that guy.
Yeah.
Just yeah. Lip trill, bubbles. SWT. So my number 2 and number 1, I think I'm just going to go, again, it's very personal, which quartets affected me as a barbershopper. Number 2, OC Times. Number 1, Vocal Spectrum, because these are quartets that taught me what barbershop was and drew me in as they did. I think for a lot of people in our generation, Tim, I think if you were someone who was discovering barbershop in the late 2000s, you bought their CDs and you sang with those CDs and listened to them endlessly. And just those recordings, I think, really influenced such a generation of barbershoppers. You were hearing every OC Times chart on the district stage relentlessly in 2009 and 10, 11, and 12. And vocal spectrum, just in their virtuosity, making people want to get better and realizing barbershop can be such a high level of singing. And so, I think those are two quartets, VS and OC, that just rocked the barbershop world when I was coming of age. So they're kind of my one and two. And it's so cool also now to be here in with the Westminster Chorus. OC Times is kind of part of our legacy, and I see those guys every once in a while. So it's fun to kind of, they taught me to sing barbershop. Corey Hunt taught me how to sing bass, and it's now he's a Westminster buddy of mine. So yeah, those are my three.
That's awesome.
You've come
That's
a
awesome.
long way.
Cool. Well, hey, I think did you guys have anything else you wanted to add in? We got a little bit of time left, but I wanted to tease a segment we're going to be doing in some future episodes. But before I do that, do you guys have any final things you wanted to ask Dan?
Yeah, a couple of.
Yes.
Go ahead, Terry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll go after you.
I don't have anything.
Since we have Dan on here, good to talk a little bit of arranging since he's on the call here. So, what was like the start of your journey like? So at this point, like I'd put you in the upper echelon of like active arrangers, but how did you get your start? Like, was there like a certain quartet like, man, I love this stuff. Like, wanted to start my own thing. Did you have like a journal of like, man, like I love this thing, and this type sounds really cool here. Like, how did you get your start as a new arranger?
I would say the way I usually answer that question is, well, these guys will tell you that, or the after hours guys will tell you, I did a lot of transcribing barbershop. I'd listen to a vocal spectrum tune. I especially when I was in college, I worked at the library, at the Bradley Library, like the graveyard shift, like noon to 5 a.m. or midnight to 5 a.m. And so I would just sit there, help someone every 2 hours, but otherwise I'd just be like transcribing barbershop and learning it that way. And what I always tell people is like one of the best ways to learn the nuts and bolts of barbershop arranging. Something I did. Analyze the Polecat book. Just go through the Polecat book, do a Roman numeral or chord lay, whatever works for you. Do an analysis of the Polecat book because that has all of the bread and butter of barbershop. Obviously, what we hear on the contest stage day is more complex, but all of the nuts and bolts are in there. If you analyze the Polecat book, you'll come out the other end like understanding how to arrange barbershop. So how I got into it and doing more. I mean, that's a longer story, but I think that's how I'd answer your question succinctly is just transcribing, analyzing. You'll learn the nuts and bolts really fast, and that worked for me.
Sure. Do you remember your first arrangement? Like, do you remember the first one you ever did?
It was This Guy's in Love with You. It was because, and it's I'll tell the whole story, but it was when I was getting my master's degree in choral conducting. The final exam was, he said, you're going to come in and you're going to listen to a piece of music and you're going to write about it. I was like, cool, awesome. All the tools we used all semester, you're just going to write about it for analytical techniques. And we came in and we were expecting like a piano sonata or something like that. And he played This Guy's in Love with You. And we're like, oh, okay. So we wrote about that. And the whole time I was like, this would make a great barbershop chart. So immediately after that class, I like ran to the music library and got, it was before I even had Sibelius, just pen and a piano and staff paper, and I just kind of like penned it out. And so that was my first barbershop arrangement. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Terry?
Yeah, so just really quick, Dan. I'm, Danny went with the arranger tact. I'm going to go with the director tact here. Just quickly and briefly, can you take us through what a typical rehearsal is like with Westminster?
Yeah, we start, a good solid warm-up. We have a 3-hour rehearsal, and I'll spend at least 20, 25 minutes on warm-up, but that's not all just warm-up activities. I'll try to like bleed into music. Like we'll do 10 or 15 minutes of warm-up activities, but then we'll take like a rep song and do some, lip trilling or such, and just kind of I'll be working on any mechanism things that I really want to focus on through a rep song rather than doing like a half hour of la 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 la. I'll try to like bleed into music as much as I can. And then we'll learn a tag. We'll sing a tag, and then we'll, after warm-ups, that's kind of the meat of the rehearsal. We'll spend the next hour and 15 minutes or so on something that we're really working on, a contest tune or some important rep for the show. We'll take a break, and then after break is, we'll get back to some serious work, but that's where we'll maybe do some more kind of rep thing, is like shorter, that's the kind of wind down of the night. So might do kind of shorter reps of tunes or shorter periods of work on tunes. Yeah, and then we're done. I don't know if I have I don't know if I have an answer to that question that works in less than 60 seconds or so.
A lot of sectionals during your rehearsals, or do you do any of that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not every week, but we do. I have great section leaders who are able to do some great things. So we'll, at least every couple of weeks or so, we'll do that, even if it's not, just for unity of sound. For unity of sound, and for honestly, for unity of social atmosphere. You know, when the section feels like they're a team, you know, that makes a big difference. So I try, even if we don't like need sectional work, I try to have it at least every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Well, Dan, thanks so much for being on. We really appreciate it. And we hope to keep going with this. I do want to tease, we got a couple minutes here to kind of finish up. I do want to tease, we're going to have a segment coming with our next few guests. I can't tell you yet who the guests are going to be, but you might start to be able to make some guesses because we're going to have a few guys who maybe are coaching some of the top quartets that you might be thinking about going into St. Louis. And we're going to do a little segment that we're going to title the Scouting Report, where we're going to use that sports term, but have them actually give us a little scouting report on the quartet they're coaching. So some of the top contenders may be going into St. Louis, and so that should be a whole lot of fun that we're going to be doing that. But other than that, I think we are going to close it up for this time. I do want to say one special shout out, though, to Nick Luna, who wrote the tag that closes out our podcast. So I did want to say that. If you've watched the YouTube video, you see the little shout out to Nick, but I actually reached out to him, and apparently he wrote the tag, but Joey Buss wrote the lyrics. And I guess it happened at like some Westminster function, speaking of Dan being here. And he was telling me the story or something on Facebook, but it just came together, and that's what the final tag is. So there you go.
Dan, I really want to give you a big thank you for coming on, as I've sent you an email before or a text before. I'd love to give you a big thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thanks,
we
Dan.
appreciate
Absolutely.
it. All right. We're out for today.
Don't forget that like and subscribe. And if you have anything, please email us at hardball and harmony and hardball. Let's try that again. Harmony and hardball at gmail.com. Love to hear from you.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Basketball, football, hockey, and golf. Man, I love watching sports.